सभी को मेरा नमस्कार. I welcome you all in the class of the chapter Determination of Income and Employment. I hope you all have studied all the topics which I have covered in my previous video. And in this video, I am going to cover the following topics. Those are meaning of involuntary unemployment, meaning of full employment equilibrium, meaning of deficient demand and deflationary gap, meaning of excess demand and inflationary gap, remedy to correct deficient demand and excess demand. There are two measures: fiscal measures and monetary measures. Monetary measures, we have already studied this in money and banking chapter, but student, from the money and banking chapter, quantitative instruments and qualitative instrument has been deleted, but we have to do this topic in the chapter determination of income and employment. So as a whole we have to do this monetary measures or monetary policy in this chapter, not in money and banking. So these are the topics which I will cover in this video. Let's begin with the first topic, that is meaning of involuntary unemployment. Involuntary unemployment exists when willing and able-bodied people do not get employment at the prevailing wage rate. Or we can say that involuntary unemployment refers to a situation where all persons are not employed. Persons are out of jobs against their wishes. Some people are able and ready to work at prevailing wage rate, but they do not find jobs because jobs are not available in the labor market. This is the situation of involuntary unemployment, and we can differentiate it with voluntary unemployment, as voluntary unemployment refers to that part of population which are able to work but voluntarily they prefer not to work. Under voluntary unemployment, some people do not wish to work at given wage rate. They are treated as voluntarily unemployed. For example, women belonging to rich families prefer to remain out of work. They are called as voluntarily unemployed. So we can differentiate voluntary unemployment as it is a situation when we include that part of labor force which does not wish to work at prevailing wage rate. Voluntarily unemployed persons are not counted while estimating the size of unemployment in the economy, but we include those persons who are involuntary unemployed while estimating the magnitude of unemployment. So we have to give more focus, more stress on studying involuntary unemployment, as it is very important. Now let us study about the meaning of full employment equilibrium. Equilibrium you have already studied in the previous videos. This is the condition when aggregate demand, or we can say when planned aggregate demand is equal to planned aggregate supply. So now we have to study about full employment equilibrium. So first we have to study about what is full employment. Full employment is a situation in which all those who are able and willing to do work at prevailing wage rate find work. We can say that full employment level of income is that level of income where all the factors of production, that is land, labor, capital, entrepreneur, are fully employed in the production process. And full employment is a condition where there is no involuntary unemployment. That means people who wish to work, they are able to find the jobs at prevailing wage rate. Now let us understand about the full employment equilibrium with this diagram. On x-axis we have taken income, and on y-axis we have taken aggregate demand and aggregate supply, or we can say ex ante aggregate demand and ex ante aggregate supply. This 45-degree line is of aggregate supply, or we can say our national income, and this is aggregate demand curve. Where aggregate demand curve and aggregate supply curve intersects each other, this is the equilibrium point, that is denoted by E here, and EY is the equal to OY, that is full employment level of output at point E. So we can say that at equilibrium point we have the full employment level of output also, as at point E aggregate demand is equal to aggregate supply and OY is the full employment level of output. Full employment equilibrium can be achieved when resources of the economy are fully employed, and it is a maximum that an economy can achieve in the long run. But in Keynesian theory, equilibrium does not necessarily takes place at full employment level, as it is taking place in this diagram. But if in the economy aggregate demand for some reasons increases and shifts from AD to AD1, so now the new equilibrium will be at this point, and at this equilibrium there will be over employment of resources. So we can say that this is over employment equilibrium, because full employment equilibrium was at this point, and we can say that the equilibrium level of output does not necessarily means the full employment level of output. It can be at over employment and it can be at underemployment. Let's study about excess demand and inflationary gap. If the equilibrium level of output is more than full employment level of output, it is due to the fact that aggregate demand is more than the level of output at full employment level. On a very simpler note, we can say that excess demand is a situation in which aggregate demand become excess of aggregate supply corresponding to full employment level of output. You can see it here also, when aggregate demand is more than aggregate supply at full employment. Full employment word is very important because we are talking about the full employment. And at full employment, aggregate demand is not equal to aggregate supply. Rather, aggregate demand is more than aggregate supply at full employment. This is the situation of excess demand. And by the amount which aggregate demand is exceeding aggregate supply, that amount or that gap is known as inflationary gap. Of course, at full employment, we can say that inflationary gap is that amount by which aggregate demand is more than aggregate supply at full employment level. Let us understand the concept of inflationary gap with the help of this diagram. On x-axis we are taking income or employment because these terms are synonym, and on y-axis we are taking aggregate demand and aggregate supply. This 45-degree line is aggregate supply, or we can write it as Y also, that is national income. AD is the initial aggregate demand curve, and E is that point where aggregate demand curve and aggregate supply curve intersect each other, that is the equilibrium point. In this diagram, OM is the full employment output, but at full employment level of output, that is OM, aggregate demand is more than aggregate supply. You can see that FM is the aggregate demand and EM is the aggregate supply. Aggregate demand is more than aggregate supply by FE amount. This FE is the gap by which aggregate demand exceeds aggregate supply at full employment level. So we can say that FE is the inflationary gap, because inflationary gap is that amount by which aggregate demand is more than aggregate supply at full employment level of output. According to this diagram, we can have the equilibrium here. You can see at this point, that is E dash. But here we are not at the full employment level of output. This is over employment equilibrium, because economy is operating more than full employment level, and here aggregate demand is equal to aggregate supply, so we are having equilibrium. So we can say that at E dash, economy is in over employment equilibrium situation. But at full employment level, we are having the inflationary gap. Let us discuss about the deficient demand and deflationary gap. If equilibrium level of output is less than full employment level of output, it is due to the fact that aggregate demand is not enough to employ all the factors of production. This is the situation of deficient demand. On a very simpler note, we can say that when aggregate demand is less than aggregate supply at full employment level, we have to give stress on this word, that is full employment. We are talking about full employment. At full employment, when aggregate demand falls short of aggregate supply, that is the deficient demand. And deflationary gap is the amount, it is that gap by which aggregate demands fall short of aggregate supply at full employment level. Let us understand about deflationary gap with the help of this diagram. On the x-axis, again we have taken output or income, and on y-axis we are taking aggregate demand and aggregate supply. This 45-degree line is aggregate supply, or we can say this as national income, that is y. Now our initial aggregate demand curve is AD, and OY is the full employment level of output. At OY, that is full employment level of output, aggregate supply is EY, and new aggregate demand becomes to CY. You can see at full employment level, aggregate supply now becomes greater than aggregate demand, and this is the gap by which aggregate demand falls short of aggregate supply. This means this is the gap, or this is the amount by which aggregate demand is less than aggregate supply, and this is the EC, and this is the deflationary gap, because deflationary gap is the gap, or is that amount by which aggregate demands falls short of aggregate supply at full employment level of output. Economy can have the equilibrium at point F, where again aggregate demand is equal to aggregate supply, but this is not the full employment level of output. This is underemployment level of output. So we can say that this is underemployment equilibrium condition at point F. Now let's discuss about the measures to correct excess demand and deficient demand. Again, I am telling you excess demand is a situation in which aggregate demand become excess of aggregate supply at full employment level of output in the economy, and deficient demand is the situation in which aggregate demands become short of aggregate supply at full employment level of output. So there are two measures to correct excess demand and deficient demand conditions or situations. First is fiscal measure, or we can say it as fiscal policy. Fiscal policy is the expenditure and taxation policy of the government. Second is monetary policy or monetary measures. Central bank are supposed to regulate and control the volume and direction of the credit by using its quantitative and qualitative techniques. Monetary policy is that policy of the central bank which influence the money supply. This we have already studied in the chapter Money and Banking. Now discuss about the fiscal measures to correct excess demand. First in fiscal measure is reduction in government expenditure. In the time of excess demand, the governments need to reduce its spending on public works such as on construction of roads, buildings, irrigation works, which will reduce the income of the people and their demand for goods and services. It will reduce its expenditure on subsidies also, and this will lead to decline in the level of aggregate demand. Thus, the excess demand situation can be corrected. Second is increase in taxes. In order to reduce the level of aggregate demand, the government should also increase the tax rate, especially on rich people. When the tax is increased, it will reduce the disposable income, that is, income left after paying the taxes in the hands of households. Next is public debt. During excess demand, the government should go for public borrowings so that people are left with lesser amount and their purchasing power will become less. These are the monetary measures to correct excess demand. Central bank has two methods to correct the excess demand situation. First is quantitative method and second is qualitative method. Quantitative methods aims at regulating the volume of credit, and qualitative methods aims at regulating the direction of credit, who should get more credit and who should get less credit. Under quantitative methods, first we have increase in bank rate. Bank rate is the rate at which central bank lends to the commercial bank in the long run. To correct the situation of excess demand, central bank will increase the bank rate. This will increase the lending rate of interest and credit becomes more expensive for the commercial bank also. Demand for loans, for investment and other purposes by the household will also decrease. At high rate of interest, household will be forced to do their savings, and this will lead to decrease in consumption expenditure, and though the aggregate demand will fall. Next is increase in repo rate. Repo rate is that rate at which central bank gives loan to the commercial bank in the short run. During the situation of excess demand, central bank will increase its repo rate also. Next is increase in reverse repo rate. It is the rate at which central bank borrows money from the commercial bank. And central bank will increase reverse repo rate also during the excess demand. Next is increase in legal reserve requirements. It is the combination of cash reserve ratio and statutory liquidity ratio. Cash reserve ratio is the fraction of net total demand and time deposit that commercial bank must keep as reserves with the central bank, and statutory liquidity ratio is the fraction of net total demand and time deposit that commercial bank must keep with themselves. So in case of excess demand, central bank will raises cash reserve ratio and statutory liquidity ratio, because after doing this less money will be left with commercial banks for lending. As lending decreases, the money creation by commercial bank decreases. Hence, it will lead to decrease in the aggregate demand. Last is selling of government securities. The central bank sells government securities to commercial banks in return for cash. As securities are sold by the central bank in the open market, the supply of money in the economy reduces. This will decrease the deposits with banks and hence their lending power will also decrease. So now borrowers will get less amount of loans from the banks. Thereby it will reduce the aggregate demand and it will correct the situation of excess demand. And there are also qualitative methods to correct excess demand. First is increase in margin requirement. Margin requirement refers to the difference between the current value of the security offered and the amount of loan granted. So in case of excess demand, central bank will increase the margin requirement. During excess demand situation, central bank will increase the margin requirement, which induces borrowers to borrow less from the commercial bank also, which will in turn reduces the aggregate demand and will correct the situation of excess demand. Next qualitative method is moral suasion. In situation of excess demand, central bank appeals to the commercial banks to discourage lending and restrict the expansion of credit. This reduces availability of credit and hence reduces the level of aggregate demand. Next is selective credit control. It refers to a method in which central bank gives direction to commercial banks to give or not to give credit for certain purposes to particular sectors, and during excess demand situation the central bank will adopt this selective credit control policy. Now let's study about the fiscal measures that government will undertake to correct deficient demand situation. First is increase in government expenditure. When government expenditure increases, the aggregate demand in the economy also increases by the same amount, because government expenditure is one of the component of aggregate demand in a four sector economy. We have already studied this equation earlier also, that aggregate demand has four components: private final consumption expenditure, investment expenditure, government expenditure, net exports. So when government increases its expenditure on public works such as construction of roads, buildings, provision of education and health to the public, this will affects the aggregate demand and in turn it will definitely increase the aggregate demand and it will correct the situation of deficient demand. Next is decreases in taxes. A reduction in the level of taxes will raise the disposable income of the household. As a result, consumption demand will increase, and when consumption will increase, then aggregate demand will definitely increase, and this will correct the situation of deficient demand. Next is deficit financing. In India, deficit financing means borrowing by government from the Reserve Bank of India, or we can say that Reserve Bank is giving loan to the government by printing new currency notes. When deficit financing happens in the economy, this will increase the money supply in the economy, which will in turn increase the aggregate demand, and it will correct the situation of deficient demand. Now there are monetary measures, or we can say quantitative methods and qualitative methods to correct the deficient demand. In case of deficient demand, central bank will decrease the bank rate to make cost of borrowings cheaper for the commercial banks. This will lead to reduction in lending rates by the commercial banks as well. And this cheaper credit will motivate people to borrow more funds from the commercial bank, and this will increase the consumption expenditure and investment expenditure, thereby it will lead to increase in aggregate demand also. Next is decrease in repo rate. To correct deficient demand, central bank will decrease the repo rate, and you can see in the present scenario of deficient demand, central bank has decreased its repo rate and decreased its reverse repo rate due to the situation of deficient demand in the economy. Next is decrease in legal reserve requirements, that is the combination of cash reserve ratio and statutory liquidity ratio. When central bank decreases legal reserve requirements, it will enable the commercial bank to create more credit. A reduction in legal reserve requirement will release money that will increase the money supply in the economy, and it will lead to increase in aggregate demand. Next is buying of government securities. During deficient demand, the central bank starts buying government securities from the open market. It will increase the money supply and raises the purchasing power of the people in the economy, which will in turn increase the aggregate demand. So all of these things has been done by Reserve Bank of India to just increase the aggregate demand or to correct the situation of deficient demand. The qualitative methods to correct deficient demand is decrease in margin requirement. During deficient demand situation, central bank reduces the margin requirement, which induces more borrowings by the people, because commercial bank can give more amount of loan to the people. It will encourage borrowings and it will increase the level of aggregate demand. Next is moral suasion. During deficient demand situation, central bank requests or appeals to the commercial bank to encourage its credit. This will raise the availability of credit and it will increase the aggregate demand also. Last is selective credit control. During the deficient demand situation, central bank will withdraw the selective lending and it will make efforts to encourage credit in the economy to just correct the situation of deficient demand. So now just study about the measures, both fiscal measures and monetary measures, to correct the excess demand. Under fiscal policy or fiscal measures, government will decrease its spending, or we can say government will reduce its expenditure on public. And in case of monetary policy or monetary measures, RBI, Reserve Bank of India, will increase its bank rate. There will be sale of securities, that is government securities, and increase in legal reserve requirements. Under qualitative instrument, RBI will increase margin requirements and it will advise commercial banks to discourage lendings, and there will be credit rationing, or we can say selective credit control. These are the fiscal measures and monetary measures to correct deficient demand. Under fiscal measures, government will increase its spending, or we can say government will increase its expenditure on public. And under monetary policy, central bank under its quantitative instrument, it will decrease its bank rate just to increase the